www.cornerstone-unlimited.com, or you can call toll-free at 888-239-9890. That's 888-239-9890.
The Intelligence Report, Mark and Don, every morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, Monday through Friday.
As the National Rifle Association says, it's not guns that kill people, it's maneuvers. Let's get ready to rumble! Y'all ready for this?
You just shot an unarmed man. He should have harmed himself.
The Intelligence Report. The Intelligence Report, Mark and Don, every morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, Monday through Friday.
Y'all ready for this?
I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't bad.
I've not yet begun to defile myself.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his 3-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free, and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost, you're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free, and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
Remember remember your training and you will come back alive. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the morning intelligence report. I'm Mark Koernke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, west, central, southeast, and west. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on the Micro Effect Network in the morning. We're also on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and ultra net technologies both east and west of the Mississippi, along with southern and central Alaska. We're on the Hallmark Network on the eastern seaboard from the top of Maine to the bottom of Florida. From the bottom of Florida across the arc to the Gulf of Mexico, headed to Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, a big chunk of Nebraska, a whole bunch of Wyoming to include both the Pit, the 3rd, and the 5th, along with the Colorado militia. Then waving to our friends way out there on the left coast, we sweep back across the plains, leap over the burgeoning banks of the Mississippi, and land in the Smokies, where the restaurant crews, the Grandma teams, the OK teams, and the Ma Build Grandma Consortium of retired telecommunications workers are doing their part to ensure that we have a replacement for the Internet. Many hands making for light work, 1,000,000 petticoat junctions, a geodesic frame with the ability to build beyond the enemy's control. Well, it is a beautiful blue sky day out there. It is Monday. No way, not Monday. It is the 14th of May. It is the 4th year of open Fabian socialist and Soviet socialist occupation of America with a K. 2012 Old Earth calendar or Mayan Crazy Town calendar. Well, you know what that means. It means that when the time comes, we're going to have to beat them down hard, kick them in the slats, drag them on down the road, slap them senseless, and then leave them bleeding on the beach. Because we don't really need them in this country anymore, and we've had enough of them. I think pretty much everybody has. So what do you say, guys? Get the whooping stick. If they decide to come and piddle, well, we're going to make sure it's in their pants and on their, on their time. And when we're all done with them, we're going to say hasta la Winnebago and just get on with life. It is a beautiful Monday, by the way, and that is, of course, it means that we've got a lot of work to do, too. It means you've got to get up this morning, man. Dudes, I don't want to get up. Now, before we go any farther here, perhaps many of you caught a few things that have gone on over the last couple of days. Here it is, the 14th, where, it's May. It's the middle of the month. And it turns out that, well, you may have heard the machetes and the chainsaws running over the weekend. Did you hear the machetes running? Did you hear the chainsaw? What was that? Well, it turns out, and now I've been kind of ribbing everybody about this for, how would you get past 2012 and tell everybody that Mayan Crazy Town calendar wasn't quite what we thought? My logic was that, you see, when back in 1950 they were just so sure it was the end of the world under the Mayan Crazy Town calendar to try and convince everybody they need to go in a brain fart. Well, then they found another stone quarter with a whole bunch of additional calendars, and oh look, we miscalculated. That was the term, miscalculated. Then it was 2000. Remember that? Oh, 2000. We're all going to now. Y2K was an issue that's separate, and we've argued again. My point: we knew that Y2K was a man-made thing. We've lived without computers. We can live without computers again, a lot better than everybody really thinks, because we have to, use our communication skills and our brains. Instead of the computer kind of, tapping in and doing most of the work for you, you'd be doing it yourself. We have lots of capacity. We're just not using it. Instead, we're letting the computers piddle with us. Well, anyway, the next step was, when 2000 came around, they found another slab. They moved a couple trees away. Now, you know where I'm headed, because if you didn't see it this weekend, there have been all kinds of announcements in the last 3 or 4 days that, well, it turns out they broke out the machetes, and they were down there working in the, Guatemala, and they found another set of tablets. And now it turns out that, well, the good news is that it's not the end of the world in 2012, but rather it'll be down the road farther. So be ready for the next chew on your toenails until you're down to bloody stumps on your foot, and then chew on your fingernails until you have no fingers and digits left or a thumb to worry about. But in the meantime, well, they're already prepping everybody for, we bought as much time as you could. Very end of December, when everything was going to just atomize, vaporize, or whatever. But somebody finally acknowledged that, well, I don't know what you people are talking about here, because, it's like the calendar ends, but it's like nobody talks about the end of the world happening every year when we write our calendar, and December comes around and the new calendar's in place. Oh, who'd have thunk that? Shazam, Sergeant Carter, Shazam! But, again, there's a lot of people who are, this is a great way to write your brain off. This is what, this is what we used to call a cop-out, man. I don't have to do anything, man, because I'm going to be ejected out of here, and you're all scumbags, and I'm going to be ejected out of here because God's going to make me special, or, dude, it's the end of the world because the Mayans with the chicken feathers and the grass skirts and the bone in their nose and the plastic armor and the obsidian fake knife and, sacrificing everybody. They knew, man, they knew. Yeah, they knew how to run a scam. That's what they knew how to do. And do you think that the political shysters we're dealing with are any different today? Hell no. Now, that's number one. Okay, that's really high on the list here, but only because, again, we told you so. And, yes, I'm going to rub this in the next hour or two. We'll let everybody know that might not have caught up because they haven't plugged in quite right away. But if you haven't seen this now, turns out we went down the corridor and, when they went to the end of the stone corridor, there was this tree off to the right that was about the size of the corridor, but it was a big old, one of those big old tropical rainforest trees, and there just couldn't be anything behind that. Except when you go back down the hallway where they cut the first tree down, it looked just like that. So all of a sudden, somebody started chopping with the machetes on the needle branches, and then they brought in the chainsaw. Hey, look, senor. There is a whole other corridor here with a whole bunch of other calendaro Mapolita thingies, just like the ones in the corridor here. I think you better look at it. It doesn't bode well for you and the scam you are pushing. Yeah, I know. Oh, man, well, we weren't pushing that one. We'll give a new doomsday date, and everybody can, find a way to fast-light and agonize and not face reality or life by telling everybody it's the end of the world next month or next year or 6 months, 6 years down the road. Yeah, there we go. 6 years down. It's going to be only 6 years. Not too far away. But far enough away, we'll have plenty of time to find another calendar and lie again. It's the end of the worms as we know them. It's the end of... And you know what? If it is, it's the end of the worms as we know it. Which then leads me to, well, you know how it is. When they do stuff when Hollywood is desperate to try and show you how, Weezer's, or they've got a political agenda, you can't use any common sense science. Well, there's another thing coming out. Yeah, I'm going to rub it in. Here we go. Here's another Weezer piece of technology here. It's the latest TV series called Revolution. Anybody see any of the tidbits on this? Yeah, it's interesting in that if you go to, let's see, I think you can go to YouTube and punch in Revolution. You'll find, let's see, we probably can do this for you. We'll help you out here a little bit. What kind of neat stuff? Oh, yeah, there's a preview for it. And this is, like good old NBC and ABC and, CBS. Each has their own We're Doomed series. Or you've got, Sci-Fi Channel does some cool stuff, but they've always done We're Doomed stuff, right? So now we have this Revolution piece on NBC. It's a television series, and of course it has all the cliches. The evil militia. Really? Why would the militia be evil? Wouldn't it be the vast numbers of professional military forces that are out there that are already murdering and slaughtering with reckless abandon, that torture people for a living, that have Abu Ghraib prisons that they run, or, rendition torture centers? How is it the militia would be the bad guys when it's those government institutions that torture and murder? See, think this through a little bit here. Now, you see, on the other hand, militias would be, groups where people defending themselves from the typical tyranny of professional military forces that have a tendency to just go a lot crazy in the head. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So you see, right off the bat, of course, that militias are evil. Well, of course, they are for the professional forces that want to rape, kill, pillage, and burn, because typically the militias are the ones, they are peasants with pitchforks. Remember that thing for the Patriot? Well, they're a little bit more than that, sir. Anyway, the point is that the whole routine the power goes off. Now, there's this amulet. Oh, I'm sorry, device, but, witchcraft/amulet. There's all kinds of stuff going on here, and you don't really get all the explanation, but you've got a cross between Jericho, the mailman, and, let's see, about half a dozen other pieces that they've thrown in there. But here's my problem. It's like all the power goes off, and, and you got this guy who's telling, he's on the phone. It's going to go off. Everything's going to go off. It's like, boy, you're really, are you a scientist? Yeah. And you're supposed to be bright? Yeah. Well, you're really not very expressive or very intelligent and can't get very much out in the few moments you have left before disaster hits, In fact, you're pretty lame. Very lame. In fact, totally lame. Oh, by the way, he showed up with a box full of food one box, just before the disaster hit. And this is, guess what, got him through the rest of, the next 15 years. But anyway, if you watch this preview piece, it's Revolution Dash, the trailer, it's on YouTube. All the power goes off. Now let me ask you something right off the bat. Okay, we have had computers for how long? In fact, we've had computers as you know them, we've had computers for such a short time. I was with one of those computer geek clubs back, when computers were tape and punch cards. Oh, punch cards. Everybody remember punch cards? Ah, yes. And yellow tape? Yeah, yellow tape, guys. Remember yellow tape punch? Oh, man. And you made lots of confetti. Had a little confetti catcher. Remember that for the yellow tape? Of course, you made some confetti with the punch cards, too. And, yeah, what a process. To make your own program so the little stick figure could do something. Remember that? Yeah, I do. We used to sit for hours, and, the whole computer geek club was made up of what? 6 people? 7? Sometimes 8, then back to 6 because somebody moved away because their parents worked for another company that, worked in computers or something like that, or engineering, because that was back in the heyday of NASA and going to the moon and all those other fun things. Well, anyway, what's interesting about this is all the power goes off because the electricity thingies don't work. Now, the scary part about it for me, actually that's scary, but the first thing, I'm watching this trailer, and this guy, he goes outside, and all the power is going off, and you see it going click, 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 click away from him, and out of the blue you hear this, and they make this, real light sound, like you can hear people going, Aah! And this plane is somersaulting around itself, not head over heels, and it's not going straight forward, it just is coming straight down. It, quote-unquote, falls out of the sky. Now, unless I miss something here, I don't want to be in a plane where the power runs out. I'm serious about that. None of you do, because jets are basically grossly overloaded darts, okay? Thrust keeps them going in a certain direction, and that's what they do. You actually punch the plane through the air, okay? That's the basic rule. So here's this plane spinning, circular, and coming straight down. And I'm trying to figure out, how in the hell did the pilot do that? It looks really interesting, except that, okay, explain to me, this plane is flying straight, it's falling straight down. Now, it'd be bad enough if you were in that plane and it was doing, however many knots, and it's going forward because the pilot realizes if it's all electronic fly-by-wire that he's screwed. We've always joked about this, but when it's not a joke, it's reality. If a fly-by-wire 757 and 767 or a 777 loose power, yeah, you all kiss your honey and goodbye. The pilot might as well come back out of the cockpit and just come back and have a drink with everybody else because he can't do anything. She's going in and you're all dead. It's that simple. Why? Well, because those fly-by-wire planes that they used for 9/11 to, as guided missiles because they were taken over from away from the aircraft, that's what they are. They're just nothing but big. If you want to talk about a cruise missile, which now we call them drones, everybody has a drone, man. Well, they just keep going straight forward, and then they scud in somewhere. Okay, but they just, wherever their last order was until they run out of fuel, or the engines, if the engines fail, thrust stops, and you have this arc of descent that's very rapid and very embarrassing. Okay? So there's all these goofy images, but then it fades out because the lights go off and people are in the cars and there's the usual lines and lines of cars that are just regular traffic on the road, and they all die. And then it's 15 years later. Now mark you, 15 years later. And all the imagery is really cool except, man, they must have shut off the electronics but thrown rapid grow everywhere because all the skyscrapers all have trees coming out of them. And not just like, 15-year growth trees, unless maybe they drop some special tropical rainforest seeds on everything. Because it's like a cross between Logan's Run and Planet of the Apes, except Planet of the Apes would be farther along when everybody's broken down and destroyed and, rotted and, crumbling. But instead, it's like everything's covered up. Here's the thing, and everybody goes back, well, the batteries wouldn't work, and the jet engines wouldn't work, and nothing electrical would work. Come ride the little train that is rolling down the track to the junction. Petticoat Junction. Remember that? Doop, doop. So, you mean steam engines don't work? You mean steam doesn't work now? Well, okay, wait a minute. We went back to the Middle Ages because all these scientists were like, electronic engineers and didn't have any concept of physical engineering? They all wanted a catatonic brain fart? You have all these manufactured items laying around, and everybody was dumb as a stinking box of rocks, so the best they could do was horses, and everybody forgot how to use a bicycle? Or how to build a bicycle? Or how to use all the tools and materials laying around? Let me ask you something, and I've brought this up, and I want you to think outside the box as opposed to the goofiness of stupidity like this. Number one, how many components, how many things does it take to make a car? Just a car. Now, because of that, how many cool things are laying under the hood? Or just imagine the sheet metal itself, what it's worth. What could you do with it? Now, before we had bikes made out of metal, does everybody understand that the original bicycles were made out of wood? That's if you really went back to, we're really going back to crude. Except, look at all the stuff laying around. How long would it take for you to figure out? In fact, let's put it this way: since I'm not going back to medieval times, only because maybe the Prozac prodigies take over. If all the characters on Prozac have their Prozac cut off, then they're all going to go into crazy land. Those will be the nutcases you got to lock up. But beyond that, it'd be like, how long would it take for everybody to figure out, hey, electricity doesn't work, but there's a lot of other technology out there. Let me give you a little example of how efficient steam was. Steam was so efficient and offered so much power and required no electricity. It was so efficient that, when they first came out with internal combustion engine tractors, they had to make them look like steam tractors to try and convince farmers that they needed one. Did you know that? You didn't know that? Steam, in fact, will outdo diesel in terms of torque and power directly available to drive anything. Now everybody goes, but Mark, the motors didn't, because the scenario here is that all the electrical stuff didn't work. Guys, let me ask you something. Before we had all these power drills and batteries and electronics that we had where you could conveniently have your battery-powered drill, we thought things through and we fabricated things. Using a steam power engine, a direct drive shaft along the side of a factory, and a pulley system, we actually used pulley-driven tools to make things. Do you all know that? There wasn't any electronics down the line. In fact, let me go one step farther. Even when there was, I can take you to Edison, small Edison power plants. We've talked about this many times on the air. Small Edison power plants all through the area here. You know what's really neat? They were, the sluiceway is still there. Everything runs. Beautiful cut stone, by the way, all out in the middle of nowhere. Little units designed to be about the size. The whole system was in the building the size of your house, and the actual dynamo was in an area the size of 2 of your bathrooms. But off of that main shaft that ran the power supply, there was a second gearbox, and it went to another machine shop that was always next to, built right on all of these Edison power plants that were built. And that direct drive shaft ran a belt drive system that ran an entire machine shop without electricity at all. Now, this is all figured out by people who you would always look down to and say, well, they only had a 6th grade education. Well, that 6th grade education fed most of the world with steam technology 100 years ago. In fact, still 100 years ago, goes, well, Mark, that's 1912. This is 2012. That's my whole point. Before the tractor, before electronics, steam engines were used in fleets to harvest across the plains. Do a little research. Steam. Now, what about trains? I mean, all that plane fell out of the sky. That's really sad. Everybody immediately go, well, Mark, the diesel, they're diesel electric. They wouldn't work. Yeah, but the mechanical machine, all the machinery is sitting there. Now, Mr. Scotch Boiler is your friend. Mr. Scotch Boiler does not require electronics to operate. Mr. Scotch Boiler is basically, when you see a big old train, an old steam train going down the tracks, come ride the little train that is rolling down the track to the junction. When you see that train, when you see that big long tube, do you think they just built that big long tube with the front of it in the front and it's called, that long part of the locomotive? That's a Scotch Boiler. There were several variations on the theme, but a Scotch Boiler producing all the energy necessary to make that train pull how many cars going down the tracks. Now, you take the diesel electric out, you drop a boiler in, and by the way, the technology is all off the shelf. Guess what? You're not heating the skyscrapers, obviously. You let them turn into tropical rainforests. But all of those buildings each have a heating system, typically a steam or hot water system. Guess what? They have a boiler system in the basement. Disassemble, reassemble. Most of them small enough that they actually are pulled right out of the building as need be. Maintenance is done on site typically, and the boilers are disassembled. You know how many thousands of boilers you have laying around in just your community that you don't even think about because you don't really know about them? Now, even if you didn't have that, you know how much plumbing and how long it would take for you to go to steam? It would take you days, maybe weeks, and you would have steam systems online. That's how simple it is. So the only reason you're going to go back to the Stone Age and looking like a medieval farmer is because you're dumb as a box of rocks and haven't thought anything through. But you've got all this technology. You've got all the space-age toys laying around. You know, everything from hacksaws, which they sure as hell didn't have in the Middle Ages. Just hacksaws. Do you know what hacksaws and files would do to change? But then you get all these raw materials. It's like every car on the road would be another thing that would be converted. And by the way, you know how long it would take for somebody to figure out, maybe I should make a space-age lightweight car and convert it over. Oh, wait a minute, I don't have to make the car. It's already sitting there. Got all the electronics, since the electronics are no good. And you know what, in 15 years, in 10 years we electrified the country with steam. We used steam to build power, or hydro. Now, if it weren't for the green weenies, here's the other problem. You got the greeners and you got the public education system that creates these incompetents that can come up with TV series like this that we just couldn't live without the electricity. The cool thing is if you get everything up online, because, in this little episode here, this little preview, it says 15 years later. In 15 years, do you realize what you could have online? Did all the railroad tracks just fall off the planet? Yeah, when the electricity went, it just vaporized. Now, a railroad is called a road for a reason. Think about this. Pullman cars, steam Pullman cars, all those are already still available right now all over the place. There's thousands and thousands of them. We were just talking about this over the weekend when I saw this little preview. Pullman cars were designed for a couple of men, put them on the track, and you go down the road and the boiler's about the size of, a small wood burner heater, about a little potbelly stove. So simple, it's ridiculous. Go down the road without having a pedal. But they made pedal versions. You mean to say that my hind end pedaling stuff, all of a sudden the electricity gone, I just don't know how to do this anymore? What about bicycles? Now, guys, everybody goes, but the tires. Okay, well, see the tires in the cars you're not using if the cars are, scrapped or if you got junk tires? Let me give you a little hint. Before we had air-inflated tires, we had solid tires. Now, here's the neat thing. Back in the day, we didn't have all these spare tires laying around with all this modern, chemistry that we've used to make them. If you take and strip a tire, cut it the same diameter, with one of those amazing hacksaws you have left around, even a dull one, and since you got all the time in the world, you take a tire that's about the same diameter or a little bigger than the diameter of your, say, solid rim that you have, your steel rim with spokes, and you cut it the width of the tire groove, and then you drill holes, because you got all the time in the world, you can even do it manually, and let's see, you run screw holes through with washers, and then you bolt, you cut the rubber tire, the diameter of the steel rim, make sure that it's joined well where it comes together, because you're going to cut it and make it the same diameter as your bicycle rim, and you have a very malleable, solid rubber tire to put on a bike. Which means you don't have flats, and while your rumpus is going to bounce a lot more on the road, it's still going to work really well. Uh-oh, by the way, talking about bouncing, we are at break time here. I think I'm going to hear music in a minute. I hope I am anyway. In theory, I may. I'll bet you I will if I wait long enough. But anyway, we're at the bottom of the hour break already here. But just an idea there. How many ways? Why would you go back into the Stone Age unless you're just totally incompetent? And I mean, you really would have to be, dudes. You'd have to be Prozac and a couple others to be stuck for 15 years or to step back after 15 years. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of people out there that are tradesmen, and I ain't talking the Mexican imports, that would have all the working knowledge you need. You know what a boiler man would be worth? You know anybody who understands boiler technology would be worth? He would be an engineering giant. He would make a niche for himself. Here's what's fun. If the whole idea behind the power being shut off was so that these shysters could come back and be gods because, they're going to turn the electricity back on, it's like, why bother? It looks like you've turned they took 15 years and they've gone into the Stone Age. Most anything you have electronic isn't going to work anyway. But what happens if you go around the electronics and you don't need it and you realize you don't need it? Guys, they had to sell all this BS 100 years ago because people already had systems that worked, that they could handle and manage themselves, that they could maintain themselves, where they didn't need a middleman or a special manufacturing facility or something that was so unique and isolated that everything had to go through them. Instead, everybody took care of themselves. They don't want that. Please, go ahead and shut stuff off and watch and see what happens. If we got rid of the greeners and shot most of them right now, the green group, the greeners are incompetents. They do not have the ability to take care of themselves. And everything they do is based on the idea that sugar daddy government husband is going to do everything. That's the problem with the greeners, as opposed to, again, think about it, hydro and steam right off the bat. How long would it take? No time at all. And not even talking about the idea that, the planes we would never be able to fly. Wait a minute, let's see. I saw the Wright brothers technology. I understand aircraft. Anybody who understands wood, canvas, or in fact, how many synthetics would you have laying around? How long would it take for someone to figure out, if you really did want aircraft, how to get stuff moving in the air? And I'm going to give you a little hint. You know that 100 years ago, 90 years ago, steam-powered engines for aircraft were already in place? Oh, no, that couldn't be. Yes, by the way, Mr. Diesel, back in that day, Diesel, should be the next step. Diesel also developed an aircraft engine at that time. Oh, man, Mark, you're ruining this thing. Why would we go back to, the Stone Age or the Middle Ages if everybody starts to apply their mind, especially in a market where everybody would want to have technology? and everybody would like to play with technology. In fact, now all of a sudden you're working for yourself. You don't have to go to a 9 to 5. So if you want to eat, you have to produce for yourself. If you want to produce more, you want a tractor. If you want a tractor, you look around and go, tires, motors. Wait a minute, I'm going to have to come up with an engine and power plant, steam, and it'll chug along, and I can do more with less, and I'll still produce more food in general, so I guess I won't starve, and I don't have to do it all with manual labor and look like a Renaissance or medieval peasant. Not that the globalists don't want me to become a medieval peasant, but I just wouldn't plug into that. You see how that works? Oh, ruining the whole thing there. But again, the other part about this is that if you watch this little revolution thing, it's on NBC, the little trailer, somebody has a computer and the militia was here. Did they find it? No. And then it's, what now? Well, in other words, there's some witch doctors, some alchemist wannabes who obviously have the computer technology and have this little wizard, amulet that means they're going to play, they wanted to play gods. See, that's what this whole scam's about. It's like, even like, if they play this whole thing out and everybody goes into their tongue, this is the Morlocks and the Eloi and all that from, Time Machine. Their logic is that everybody's just going to go in a brain lock and not pass beyond them. Whereas instead, since we already have the working knowledge in place and you have this vast pool of already manufactured goods, why are you going to waste them in one direction when they can be used in another, especially if you already have the working knowledge and the people have already seen the technology work? You ever spent time and gone to a small engine festival? Sure, most Americans haven't because we're above all of that. Read that. They've stupefied everybody so they don't have a command of the mechanical world. That's the reality. Now we're to the point where what is really sad, a nation that built automobiles, built battleships, built cruise liners, built planes, now is fearful of the mechanical world, is scared to death of the mechanical world. Think about that. Whoa, I can handle a skateboard, man, but, whoa, dude, it's so complicated. But where's my video game, man? I can still play my video. Oh, electricity's off my video games. What do I do? Oh, how about life? Dudes, that just isn't going to work for you. Mark, you're ruining all of this. Yeah, I know I am. Intentionally. Start thinking outside the box. In fact, way outside the box, because the box they've created is so tiny and so stinking incompetent a box that you can beat your way out of it with any number of different tools, and all of a sudden it's like, I guess we could do without these boneheads after all. I can think of a whole lot of other words that fit. I guess we could do without all of them. In fact, wait a minute. Let's go one step farther. Hold on here. Smell the coffee. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I guess we could do without 100% of them. We didn't need any of them. They imposed themselves upon us. It's just like these shyster Bilderbergs. Bilderbergs are meeting. We've got the Chantilly scam going on the East Coast. We've got NATO, of course, showing up with the Peckerwoods there that are going to be in Chicago with the Jewish mafia. We've got the Russians showing up in Colorado. But don't worry, they're not the only ones. There's a bunch of other foreign troops showing up there too. They don't even want to talk about. They're trying not to talk about, by the way. That way, you're only going to think it's there's this little group here. No, there's a whole bunch of other problems. Plus all these other operations going on. Well, these shysters are the only reason that we're stuck with them is because they're imposing themselves upon us, being the tyrants that they are. They're not needed. What purpose do they serve? They're not needed. What? Oh, look, he must be the king. Why? Because he doesn't have faces all over him. Dun, 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 dun. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Okay? Oh, look, he's got a limousine. Oh, you all had a limousine. Oh, only the royalties got the limousines there. There's nothing that they're driving. Have you noticed this? Let me point something out. Have you noticed the cars that they're driving all of these to do people in nowadays? There's not one of those things that impresses me. They're squat, crunched up, just plastic looking. They don't look any different from anything else we have. There's nothing that they have that is impressive anymore. They're all shabby. The whole bunch of them look shabby. In fact, even their gild, I mean, the whole, the gilding, the ornamentation is all gone Chinese. There's no richness to it. It's all just plastique. It's veneer. It's irrelevant because they have no quality. It's gone in the basement, people. So, I mean, we've got as good as they, well, because they can, the only thing that they can do now is say, well, they can kill us. Well, how about we kill them back? But they could kill us. Well, get through to them, the soft, chewy part, and get rid of them if need be. How's that sound? But they can do, they've got all this technology. Well, you just told me in this television series that's all going to be gone. So what difference does that make? Oh, wait a minute, I'm going back to this whole idea that we're supposed to do the Weezer thing. This would be so bad. And, of course, you got the scientists again, and it's the evil militia. The scientists enjoy working for the butchering, murdering tyrant, though. Have you ever noticed that? They like being the witch doctor, / the alchemist, which is the whole angle of what you're getting the feel for here. It's like, look, he's got an amulet. This is in this series. They're showing this little amulet thing, and it glows. So there's this technology they turned on to shut everything off. In other words, they're getting into they're showing you the occult stuff, but it's like, no, it's just the technology got so tiny, but it's still, with an occult symbol and the whole thing. Oh, yeah. The witch doctor, the alchemist, and us peasants, because we just don't understand technology. Actually, we understand more technology than the shyster on the other side basically does. And once you're outside the box, kids, hey, sky's the limit. Think about it. So anyway, Revolution Dash trailer. You can go to YouTube and watch it. And watch the next End of the World series. And it's a television series, by the way. So it's going to be an ongoing, demi-disaster. Where in 15 years, skyscrapers look like they're in a tropical rainforest, and you can't figure out how to put two nuts and bolts together, let alone drive down the road with anything that's got wheels short of a wooden cart. Duh! I think we're all smarter than that. We got a caller. Who do we have?
Good morning, Mark. This is Carl in Pennsylvania.
Good morning, Carl. Are you using a wooden cart this morning because you couldn't figure out how to pump the gas into your car?
No, I just wanted to help you destroy this wonderful illusion that we're all helpless.
Go right ahead.
All right. Now, let's go back before steam. There was something called water wheels and sluiceways and little ponds.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, they ran flour mills. They also ran factories in the United States and in Europe for machines to make cloth, things of that nature. I believe the term for what they called them was, it was a line shaft system.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So there's ways of doing things. There's lots of ways of doing things.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing I'll tie in with that. Think about this. Unlike that era where we had to come up with a system because of the limits of our technology, every car has a planetary gear. Do you know that some nations bought every sewing machine from the industrial nations they could, and they built their manufacturing based on the drive gear systems and the hand pump systems of the sewing machine? They industrialized their nation with nothing more than the pedal system on an old iron sewing machine. They were brand new back in the day. Now, we're talking about God knows how many, just the technology available that if the electricity was unplugged would be applied to the technology you're talking about. Now, how much farther ahead would you be? Think about it.
Well, in some areas we'd be a lot further ahead because we wouldn't be so interdependent on Big Brother and big mega corporations. Remember when electricity came into being, it was designed that every little burg and borough and small town and city had their own power plant.
Yep.
what happened? The electric companies came in and said, why are you fooling with your little coal-fired steam power plant? We'll sell you power cheaper than you can make it, and then you can sell it to all the pigeons in the town and make money and eliminate a couple of people, boiler maintenance, all the mess and the soot and the dirt. True?
Exactly. In fact, you know what? We think about this. That's why I said you got to shoot all the greeners. The latest thing here in the last 10 years, and in fact, remember when 9/11 first took place, most people don't know that the big thing with the anti-technology movement with the greeners was to attack the dam and hydro grid network. And in fact, they were pushing to have communities blow up their dams. Well, a couple of these characters were mouthing this stuff off right after 9/11, and so they called Homeland Security because they were talking about blowing up the dams. Well, the reason they were bringing that up is because if you go to all of the publications and all the propaganda generated by the greeners, their agenda was to destroy the hydro network. Now, what's comical is the greeners pushed this because, first of all, the pea-brains didn't think beyond their nose. Which would you rather have, that coal burner? Well, of course, they don't want any technology. They're anti-technology / they hate human beings anyway. But the hydro can be completely, it's completely, shall we say, eco-friendly. But they're on this whole kick of destroying everything man-made. So they were blowing up dams. I mean, not blowing them up surreptitiously, not like terrorists. They literally had a whole program squandering God knows how much of our resource and money so they could go out and blow up dams here and blow up, and there's all kinds of videotape of this stuff where they were bragging it up. These are the fools you'd have to get past first because these idiots have gone into, so far around the corner they can't see the corner anymore. But on the other hand, with even the existing grid left, we could still convert most of those systems over to, first simple paddle wheel and later more advanced technology with the resources available. Go ahead.
I agree 100%. Now, just a little food for thought. The Titanic has been the big thing, and there's been all kinds of stuff on the History Channel and what have you about the Titanic. The show I enjoyed the most was the series of History Channel shows that showed the building of the Titanic and the shipyards. If you watch closely, everything in those shipyards, the cranes, the tractors to move the big pieces around, all that was steam-powered equipment. And it was fascinating. The riveting was done by hand. No air compressors, no air guns to smack the rivets down. And when done properly, they held just fine. Your boilers for your steam tractors were riveted together. The tubing was put in by a flaring type tool. They weren't welded in.
Exactly.
It's all done without electric arc welding and what have you. The engine shows, you take Case, you take the other people that made steam tractors. There wasn't any electric arc welding on any of those. And with that thought, I will leave you. Go to it. Let's really destroy this nonsense that we can't survive a computer shutdown, etc. Talk to you again.
Thank you, sir. And again, you're reinforcing exactly what we're talking about. It was done with Armstrong. That's the term, Armstrong. I use it all the time for a reason. You mean there wasn't a D-12 bulldozer there? No, initially it was done with Armstrong. We built the D-12. Man built it. We built it. We used our brains. Amazingly enough, I'll point out again, people have a hard time understanding steam, for instance. Guys, we had land tractors. Some of you have tractors in your community. In fact, here's the thing about that. Think about this. Year 2012. We've got a gentleman here who's the barber in town. He's feeling a little rough right now. We're going to say a prayer for him today again. Hopefully he's doing better. But he has a steam tractor. Now, he's brought that into town, and for as long as in fact, I've known him pretty much all my life, he'd bring the tractor into town, and for Dexter days, and we'd have drive it around town, pulling a hay cart or a hay wagon. And guys, that steam tractor is about 117 years old. What? That steam tractor has been running for 117 years. Here's the thing, steam against diesel. Now, yeah, we've got turbo diesel, all this. At tractor pulls, if anybody's running any of the larger land steam tractors, guys, a land steam tractor will hold its own against a tractor facing off against it that's diesel. Of up to, the really extreme sizes. Why? Because of the way it can apply the energy available. And these steam tractors were run virtually as fleets that went up and down the Great Plains, first tilling the fields for the planting, and then using harvesters, mechanical harvesters. These fleets would then move up and down the entire plain, the prairie, the Great Plains north and south, and harvest. Oh, wow, we fed the world. And we used steam technology to get it done. The only reason we would fall into incompetence is because of central government planning. Oh, wait a minute, we're already there. We used to feed the world 5 times over. Now we've got everybody on the edge of starvation, and the American people are stupid enough that we're importing food from a country that used to throw its babies into the Yalu River. We got parasite junk-laden food coming in from communist China. How could we be that stinking stupid? Oh, wait a minute. It's part of the big plan by the Greeners, the incompetents, to screw America. Now, what's comical about this is, again, you then apply this to all of these different things where people sitting in their boxes in those skyscrapers that they depict 15 years later are covered with tropical rainforest, it looks like, that, you mean you couldn't keep the plants off your building? No, we were just totally panicked, and with the electricity off, I didn't know how to go out and use a broom and sweep off my porch. And in the first year, a bunch of leaves showed up, and there was some maple tree leaves, and there were some seeds, and after the first year, it started growing, and I just looked at it and went, oh my God, green stuff! Ah, I can't touch it, it's alive! And the rest is history. Because otherwise, what, you couldn't get up off your dead hind end, grab a broom? What the hell? You don't got anything else to do. In fact, there's no electricity, the video games aren't tying you up. 365 days a year, and very much you got to do for yourself. And all of a sudden, everybody went into catatonic brain fart. Well, here's how it works. You either go into catatonic brain fart, sit on the curb, and wait till you die, or you get up off your lazy hind end and you start doing stuff for yourself. But motivated people or innovative people, think about it. What would be your priorities? Let's see. Lots of pickup trucks. Oh, no, they all just fell off the planet. Or for that matter, anything and everything. Pick one style, one design, and you start harvesting it. Everybody left their cars along the road, right? Yeah, they're useless. Oh, cool. Can I have them? Well, nobody's really arguing over that because nobody's really coming back to get them. Wow, because that's how they depict it in all these movies. Let's see. We'll take the trucks first. What? Yeah, first of all, we're in a harvesting program. Let's start, well, I guess we can take them all, but no, let's take the trucks first. Now, what do we need to do to get something that looks like a pickup truck running? Oh, wait a minute, we don't have to build a pickup truck. We just have to come up with a power plant to make the pickup truck go down the road. Oh! Now, I will point out something here because we're heading towards the top of the hour. Guys, we don't have the video. I think we've got the pictures. We've got the stills. One of our friends, Captain Monahan, he does steam engines. In fact, he has a steam show that he does every year. We bring it up on the air. Small engine, it's a small engine event that takes place there. Electric cars come in from 100 years ago. Steam engines, calliopes, small gas engines, submersible outboard motors. Well, the latest thing we had at the last steam event that he built was a steam-powered fishing boat. Oh, wait a minute. It's a completely mobile steam-powered unit that you can take off one boat and put it on the other in about 5 minutes. How do I know? I helped him do it. The little steam motor can, in fact, it's just like, the only difference is it's got a little boiler, like a little African Queen, goes right in the middle of the boat. It's already got its own frame, sits down anywhere you want to put it. Okay, but in fact, this was a V-prow boat that we had, aluminum boat on a little pond. It's got a little control unit that's just like the lower part of your regular outboard motor, and you can drive it just like you would any other little putt-putt motor. More steam you apply, and this thing is all designed so when you drain the water, it took longer to pull the boat out of the water than it did to take the little boiler and the motor unit off the boat and put it in the truck. Seriously, people. Already on this technology has all been worked out. This technology, in fact, has been around for longer than you've been alive. But if you wait long enough, you can stupefy everybody so that nobody, what would we do without electronics? Live. And in fact, here's the thing, since the whole premise of this is that the gods of science shut it off and they're going to come back later and turn everything on, they'll be the supreme witch doctors, it's like, not if everybody just keeps right on going without them. And if they're in fact, I would hunt down and find the person. Here's the thing. Oh, you shut the electronics off, the grid off? Kill them. How many people died because of your stupidity because you wanted to play Power Freak? You mean you all shut the power grid off because you were going to play, gods on this planet? Then you need to be shot, executed, drawn, and quartered, and hung. And anybody who promoted that should have been shot, drawn, and quartered, and hung. Or any of these little control freak nutcase globalists that are thinking the same way need to be drawn, quartered, shot, and hung, or whatever you can do to get rid of them. How hard is this to figure out? We are to the point where what? This handful, this little clique of useless, they're the useless eaters. They are the useless eaters. What in the hell do they do for anybody? They have not built anything, and they sure as hell, other than just manipulating thinking, everybody's kind of like in Demolition Man. You got the nutcase, they're like ants, it's like an ant colony. That's the first one you get rid of. You see how that works? Yeah. Dr. Clockdew. Well, anyway, the point is that, they're going to come back and switch everything on. If you take a look at society with the premise that they've come up with here, that everything was shut off and so everything went to hell in a handcart and, nobody knew how to build jack squat because they all went into brain fart, then what use would it be in turning stuff back on? Oh, because, the ones who do have it would be like electronic gods. Well, then they need to be the ones shot. Those are the ones you get rid of. And find the technology and blow the snot out of it, and anybody who promoted it needs to have the snot blown out of them too. Chopped into little pieces, turned into fertilizer, and turned under one of those medieval farms in the back end. For a while, the rest of us are operating on the other technology. And if the electronics come on, the big thing it taught everybody is don't put all your eggs in one basket. And right now we're in the same boat. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't trust these shysters for a minute. That's one thing that's cool. If they want to push that, fine. Then we should all learn from that. It means we need hydroelectric in place. We need to shoot the greeners and get rid of them now because these worthless pieces of garbage are so Twilight Zone politically correct that there's nothing that they're promoting that's real science. It's like the climate change and all the goofs going along with the global warming, which before, with the same Igor type and all these other shysters back when we were going to college, Nancy and myself, it was global cooling. We're all going to freeze to death before we get back from the kids to the dorms, man. We're going to freeze in place. You better have an ice pick in both hands because you're going to freeze. Anyway, I'll tell you what, we're going to freeze here for a minute because we should be hearing the music for the break. I'm pretty sure. I'll bet you. We're almost to the top of the hour, and I don't want to overrun into the next hour. And I had a caller, so I know I have an engineer. And I'm hoping that I have a call. Oh my God, my engineer died at the board. Oh no, save the engineer, save her, or him. Anyway, just in case, we're at the top of the hour just about here. You're listening to the Micro Effect in the Morning. Hold on there a second, smell that coffee. Just because Mark's still talking doesn't mean you aren't supposed to be getting off to work here right now, because it is 8:59 East Coast time. And that means, hold on, smell. One more time. Now taste. Oh, yeah, it's hot. It burns. It burns, Mark. It burns. Yes, it does. Anyway, let's see. What do we have? How can Mark... Well, we're going to have to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's not a problem here anyway. So, it is a beautiful Monday morning. It is the 14th of May, halfway through the month, guys, and that means that we're heading on down the road, as you know, towards all kinds of exciting things, to include the fact that, don't forget, we have the Russians, well, everybody's showing up, all in the same window of activity to screw America. Now, that shouldn't be a surprise, and I know all the discussions over the weekend about the Germans in Canada and etc., which, by the way, is not new. We already knew about that. Everybody's been talking about that for years, but we're all crazy until everybody else discovers it, I guess. Well, I guess we were right. Yeah, we were. Anyway,